Hello, this is George Sandman. I'm the founder and CEO of Growth Drive. And Growth Drive is a system used by business advisors to drive client profits, growth, and value. Now, we're also a community. Every week we get together to talk about all things business advisor, everything clients, cases, things we're seeing out in the world. Now, tune in here to this podcast, and you can join the conversation by scanning this QR code, passcode 867-5309. Jump into the conversation. Everyone's welcome. We're looking forward to having you. So here we go. On with the show.
So what's going on in everyone else's world before I yet again steal the microphone? Wow. Nothing.
Snow.
It's a
We
lot
didn't
of
go that
silence.
far. Yeah.
I know it was 37. It was 37 here this morning. Tim, thanks again for you and Tony for the introduction to Rick. It's just such a fun meeting.
I'm eager to hear how that went. That guy is just a special person.
He's the only one. He knew about some programs that essentially no one who hasn't done deep research in this area knows about. He's just super cool.
So
Hey,
Tony
George.
made an introduction to George, to the guy who's living in Charleston, who's responsible for the biggest turnaround in business history. And the guy couldn't be more just humble. He's just an
Lovely.
amazing guy. You saw him at Home Depot, you wouldn't know him from a drywall guy. And he's amazing. So I'm eager to hear how that went.
Yeah.
Hey, George, did Tim Martin reach out to you?
Yes, he did. We exchanged texts this morning, and we're getting together
Good.
in the new year. You know, Tim is a certified growth specialist, and I'm eager to hear to borrow other Tim's phrase. I'm eager to hear what's been going on in his world. So, yeah, there's so much good stuff going on, guys. Since there was stone silence, let's talk about a couple of things that I'm going to be putting in your hands, or we are going to be putting in your hands. First is I created. I'm always mindful. I mean, like, so much of this is from interacting with you guys. So I took a lot of the conversations we've had, and I created a growth conversation assistant GPT. And I shared it with Mike. I shared it with Tim. I'm going to share it with everyone on this call, and I would value your feedback. So I've been through it many times, being everything from oversharing to short, and and it is satisfactory. It is designed to help you, either help you script a conversation. I think that's the highest and best use. And as you're using it, and you're kicking it around, by the way, totally private. So no one can see what gets typed in there. Only you. Okay. So you can use it as a guide for the growth conversation. And you could share the link with a client or prospect and ask them to take some time, get a cup of coffee, and answer the questions. And even if the questions seem like, it comes at the questions as it should from several angles. And it doesn't, and so far it hasn't been satisfied with. It's good. Okay. So that's thing one.
Run it.
That is, and that I will publish out to you guys this morning. Cool. You need to have if you don't have a free ChatGPT account, it will answer a certain number of questions. And if you're being obtuse, you're going to get to a point where it's like, hey, man, you're out of questions. Log in. So, and that is designed as an assistant. I saw Andy's post this morning. I am looking forward to reading that. Claire 2, Inside Clarity, is about to be in your hands. It's cool. And it has functionality from chatbot to, from a helpful chatbot to let's turn your Clarity Level 1 report into Cool. It is that when that gets released, guys, it will be a beta. And with AI, that is necessary because you are going to interact with it, kick it around, and teach it. Thank you. So,
George,
sir.
so we'll be able to create workflows within Claire.
Mike, I do not know the answer to that question, but I will tell you that yes is the ultimate answer. I don't know if that's in Rev 1. What else is going on? Well, I mentioned last week having an API that will allow us, through an API and native technology, that will allow us. Mike, you have a runner. Hey, good morning, Robert. A scribe. So it will record your conversations. You can tell it not to, right? Just like Zoom right now is taking notes. Claire will take notes in your client conversations. And we're connecting to, so native, Zoom, Teams, and Google Meet. And API Plod. I watched Mike's Plod at work. I don't personally own one. And we will API to Plod. So that's all. And you can imagine, I'm about to ask you, like, imagine what the power, the insights, the knowledge. Cool. We are also APIing to our first piece of outside software, not just to a functionality, but to an actual piece of software. More will be revealed, but we have the beta. Mike knows and is excited. We have the beta of that, which will not be released to you, but the beta should be done by the end of this week, maybe next week. You never know, but let's say in the next few days. That is going to be really cool, and it's going to be really good for everyone on this call. So, and then I have a couple of other simple connections that we'll make.
Yeah, Joseph, 100%, man, 100%.
Okay, yeah. I watched Joseph. I haven't even bought one, and I believe that to be true. I did some research, and the internet is abuzz. So, where we will be is the ability to integrate all of our conversations with clients, all of our client meetings. You get yourself a Plod, you can record on your phone. You can open up Claire on your iPad, your notebook, your laptop, your iMac, and she will be taking notes unless you tell her not to. And
sharing with a really good piece of software.
Yes.
Based out of the Northeast. And
she will, you're excited about that too. Yeah, guys, I mentioned to Mike that we have an API to HubSpot, and I think his head exploded. So that API to HubSpot is extant, but not active, not in your accounts. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Anyone who's used HubSpot understands that is it's a non-trivial connection. So imagine having all of your conversation. You have the growth conversation. You do the growth conversation using an assistant if you want. You have your growth drive playbook. Rick, yours is going to land on your doorstep tomorrow. Thank you for your patience. I got really sick, guys. As you can hear, I still am. It never felt terrible, but man, I was up at Mike's thing. Mike's excellent conclave. Okay, so you can have all of your conversations, your Clarity Level 1 interactions, any research and development you do using Claire, and then we can start connecting to the outside world and pulling in. Imagine what data you might want to pull into Clarity. I love real time. You can set it up differently, but I love real time, and as long as you're notified that the data has changed. So there is, if you think I want to get it to so clarity and clarity. I'm trying to make it a place where you go, where you just go to have to all the things you're going to do with a client, or many of the things you'll do with a client. You're not simply going to do analysis. You do planning and track execution using using Clarity, whether you do it. There's already a Claire AI out there, guys. So I have to, it's in a different industry, completely different industry. It's nursing software. So there's no likelihood of confusion, but respect. So, so just imagine, does that all make sense? Am I, or why might that make sense? I'll ask a better question.
It's all amazing. For me, the ability to generate custom workflows from within Claire, within clients' profiles, using their data and leading them in critical thinking processes when I'm not present is the most exotic, intoxicating thing I can imagine.
Yeah, I agree with Mike on that. That's amazing. It's like having almost like a mini you in several places at the same time.
Oh, Jemiah, and I haven't even said the word agent. Just give me time. When the technology is ready, and we're on the cusp. When I say we, globally, yes. Zoho won it, and Joseph, I know you've been a huge advocate for Zoho. I think that's a great recommendation. I've used it myself, and it's been a long time. But when we used it, Zoho was trying to disrupt. This is that long ago. They were trying to disrupt the Google and G Suite, and Zoho. The tools worked very, very well, and their CRM is really well regarded. Absolutely. Once you have an API, so and Zapier, we can interact with Go High. If we're going to interact with marketing, we can interact with HubSpot, with Go High Level, with Soho, with whatever you're using. You may need to do some mapping, but heck yes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of second, third, fourth level work inside an organization where, so this whole senior leadership team piece, not only can you have a workflow that helps that business owner doing some critical thinking, but then you can start designing within Claire with access to your stuff, right? Then you can start designing ways that owner can create workflows that have their employees, senior leadership team thinking. I mean, it's unbelievable. Tim and I were touching the surface on this a little bit earlier today, but like having that be within Clarity with the access to the data, because I'm not uploading my client's data to ChatGPT.
You're not uploading your client's data to a CRM, Mike.
Yeah, this is true as well. I'm not paranoid. I'm worse, but like that's exciting.
Sorry, I've got the consumption. So now, Tim, you've just finished a big level 2 workshop, right?
Correct.
How might can I put you on the spot? How might any of what we've just discussed, if at all, have helped those interactions?
I'm not sure on the front end, on the actual execution of the workshop, and because I did it manually, right? But on the back end, Claire's already been helpful, just feeding in the outcome from the Clarity 2 report and asking it for suggestions or a Q&A, sparring with me a little bit on what might the strategic growth plan look like. And this is my first time through this, right? So I'm hopping on a bike,
The bike's rolling down the hill and you're running after it.
Right. And I don't know how to put the brakes on. So I've been playing around with it, and it's actually come back. We've been back and forth and have a draft strategic growth plan. But in light of what I perceive is going on with these additional Claire developments or AI developments with Claire, I think it's going to be massive. So my next role is just to come up with a strategic growth plan that I finish with the team, right? My goal is not to bring them something finished, because people
Awesome.
what they help to create, right? So I'm bringing them concepts, and they can see clearly now. They're in the red zone right now. Help me finish this. How can you get this done? But from there, I think there's going to need to be a lot of, I don't want to say minutia. There's going to need to be a continuing conversation or evolution of planning and execution that has to get done. And I'm optimistic about Claire's ability to expedite that. Nobody needs more work right now, right? What we need is less work. So I'm eager to see how I or we can use these developments with AI to actually make it easier to succeed better than harder. Does that make sense? Right. So that's the pony I'm looking for in all of this.
Yeah, and Tim, what I love is that you're iterating. And I will repeat. Who was I on the call? Oh, it was in a demo yesterday with a guy who's very technology forward thinking. And we were talking about this exact issue, the first draft, right? I know I say that every call, but it is a draft. It is not a finished product. But Tim, heck yes. And that's exactly what Claire is great at. And she can hiccup. AI will hiccup, guys. I'll repeat, the head of OpenAI, Sam, said 85% right. Who was in Phoenix? Was anybody on this call? Yeah, Ed was. Ed, you remember that Mr. Gillespie, who led the AI initiative at Amazon, that Amazon, he also said 85%. And it can be 100% correct a lot and then completely screw it up. It can be 50, you don't know where your 85 is going to show up, but on average, 85%. So proof. I had, by the way, our Claire, and who's used her? Who thinks she's smart as a whip, right? She is really, really good. Well, yesterday she told me that, this is what you get for proofreading. She had it 99.9% right, except that the second dimension of growth was predictable, sustainable value. Close, very close, but it's predictable, sustainable growth. So, you got to, the little things where she's like, oh yeah, silly me. I haven't had coffee yet. So.
Well, that's that LLM. It's trying to predict what you want.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to build in some skepticism. So. Okay, well, that's all. That's it for me. That's all we're working on, guys. It was such a big announcement. I can't wait to make it, and I'll be excited, and hopefully it's a little contagious. Stay tuned. So
I'm excited for the I guess the impact of the AI and how it can help to leverage our ability, mine selfishly, as like an independent business advisor, because I'm limited in how many clients I can help and how much success I can help them with, based on how much time I can spend with them, right? Or the influence I can have as I walk out the room. And I can see from where I sit that the implications of having AI workflows or AI agents that are sort of residual or maybe even precede my visit can help to scale this like beyond what I can describe. So I don't want to get all carried away with it and get all misty-eyed about it yet, but I'm not even cautiously, I'm recklessly optimistic about how we can start to apply some of these things to our clients' benefit and to more clients' benefit. So I'm eager to see what happens.
Tim, go ahead, Joe.
I had a question for Tim, and this is where we all kind of rubber meets the road, right? We have a plan, and then it goes to the execution, and it's all about execution, according to Mike Garrison. We know that. Do they have an operating system in place that holds them accountable to something?
They do. In this particular case is much like the one Larry described last week, just with extra zeros and commas. So it's a bunch of technicians and engineers that have survived long enough to be senior business leaders, like past managers to senior business leaders. And they spend 100% of their weekly senior leadership team EOS meeting on tactical stuff. And it drives me crazy. Like I've been invited now to be part of the meetings. And so I'm elbowing these guys like a roller derby, over the rail into more of a strategic bent. And it's starting to work, but that's kind of the scenario here. They need to be operating far more strategically than they are. They just don't know. They just don't know.
I want to reiterate, reinforce, and growth drive. If you look at chapter 10 of my book, we have an operating system. If they already have an execution leadership system in place, great, but let's audit it. And if it needs upgrading, and from our perspective as advisors, they may not know that it needs upgrading, right, Tim? That's what you're seeing. We have we have the execution leadership system. We have the agendas for the meetings. Those are all in your C3D playbook. They're in your certified specialist, the precursor to C3D, certified specialist playbook, and they are in the C3D course, and they are in Circle. So if you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about with an execution leadership system, it is a sequence of very intentional meetings that we're helping our client learn indelible mark, right? If there's only one thing we do, if they get a better Monday meeting, keeping score, focusing on execution of strategy, you will have at least, kicked off the training wheels and say, good luck in the world. So I just want to reinforce that, because a lot of folks forget that entire body of work I spend a lot of time on. There's a lot of research in there. It is so, and it's based on things that I've personally used and that you're all using. Thank you, Rick. With like turning businesses around. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Joe, I just tromped all over your microphone. I'll shut up.
Well, my follow-up question is just what you're searching for, Tim. These guys are really good at execution from a standpoint of tactical side, right? I mean, that's just, and they have their own really exuberant Excel spreadsheet that they've been working at, and they just figure they've reached the summit of what their ability as a team. And your job is obviously to Sherpa determine, to blow up that thought and say you got a lot more further to go. With that, then it's about, having them crack an egg in the batter. And you were alluding to it earlier, leaving a couple of things unplugged. So when they plug it in, they feel like they've helped in the process of getting, I always say it's a, noose around the neck, and their fingerprints are on the rope. So when it gets tight, they're going to remind themselves, oh yeah, I committed to this. But anyways, try to be positive, but sometimes it comes back negative. But so what is that process you're going to follow to get that done? I'm curious if you, have you thought all that out, and could you share with the group of how you're going to approach it? So I think there'd be a good learning opportunity here, if you don't mind.
Yeah. And we're in the thick of it right now. I mean, the actual manifestation of this, taking this concept of a strategic growth plan and putting it into play so the company sees the growth that it needs, is being done with OKRs, which is all part of the execution leadership system. And they have been self-applying the EOS, but they've trampled the whole rocks and everything else into just a series of to-do lists, at the technical level. So we're sort of resurrecting that. We're resurrecting that with OKRs throughout the company, at least down through the senior leadership team. Everything pointing at 2 company-led key or objectives and key results. So right now they're up to close to 36 among them, and we've got to sort through that to narrow down what's going to happen in the next, first quarter next year, second quarter next year. But all the while they're getting, I'm not allowing the plot to slip past half strategic as opposed to tactical. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it's sort of very appropriate. I'm curious how all of the stuff with Claire would help, a lot of the manual, like the longhand stuff that we're doing right now to articulate these OKRs.
Can I make a quick point? Tim, you just hit on something. Joe, you're hitting on something. Tactical execution without strategy is busy work. Tactical execution without strategy is the whirlwind. It is just wow, we're busy. We're so busy.
And it's not very profitable.
It is not efficient.
So at the top in this firm, what kind of mandates have been coming down from their, wanting to get less involved or more independent of, and from an, just sort of less owner dependent? It might be an overall, whatever I found, if we could just name the theme for the quarter, whatever that is, and keep it, keep it at 10,000 feet. Don't have to go 30,000, but 10,000 feet. And just overarching, right? As we have our sprints within C3D, naming that and making them name it their own. Because these tech guys are just crazy about, they got some wild names for stuff, but that's really helpful to solidify that. It kind of lifts them up. That's the 10,000 foot level. Just when they think about whatever that initiative, call it ABC, whatever.
Joe, man,
it's just a tool that you can use for the group that's typically a tactical group to get them to think like one step up, because they're naming an initiative that's larger than just a week long. They're all about make a ticket, right? They're all ticket time tickers. The shorter that ticket stands up there, the better off that the metric is. It's service-based operations, fine. But oftentimes they're just so wound up on that way of business, especially within that category. They have a hard time, getting out of that mode. And, it's a pride of ownership. If that ticket time is low, then I'm better as in my space. And oftentimes we got to get them to,
it's a yin and yang
bend that metric, because that metric isn't doing them well when it comes to looking at things long term.
I totally agree, Joe. Naming projects is incredibly powerful. That's why the military
may actually be helpful, because the owner here is a chief culprit. I'm sorry, George, you had some point you want to make?
No. I was pointing at Joseph. But go ahead, Tim, please.
So the owner is the founder is a chief culprit. He's a technician himself, socially stunted, and is constantly coming up with homemade solutions for things in this 25-year-old legacy company. But he realizes it. He's tried twice now to step away, leave things in the hands of the CEO, who's pretty capable, but they keep running into, challenges. And what he's done now is he's come back following the Clarity 2 exercise with an objective called TPR, talent performance ratio, which he came up with on his own, which I think is brilliant. Like, what drives him crazy is to see this payroll that's massive and no profit at the end of the line. And it fits with Vern Harnish and, profit per dollar of completely burdened payroll. That's really what it boils down to.
Like Michaela,
what's the talent production ratio, and everything in the company is pointing at has to facilitate at least a 10% talent performance ratio. So the company's striving for 10% margins, where best in class is 15, but they're striving to get to at least double digits. So now yesterday I looked at a whole board of all these things laid out, and everything is pointing in one direction. So there's major progress. And all this is coming from the Clarity 2 exercise, where they've had their eureka moments about what is and isn't present. So we're just really kind of getting started on it, but I'm optimistic on how the dogs are lining up. They all seem to be running or getting ready they're lined up anyway to run in the same direction.
I love that, Tim. I love that. Joseph has had his hand up. Joseph, please.
Yeah, I think I'll throw out there something, that might be a little bit controversial, but I think might be helpful. Often there are people that are very good at strategy, and there are people that are very good on the tactical side in terms of task execution. The challenge, honestly, for companies to be able to actually scale and grow is that they have the wrong, Joe would know this, being an EOS implementer, it's the wrong people in the right seat. So they, often what happens is because owners themselves grew the business from scratch, in many ways, they themselves shouldn't be operating in the business. They should be operating on the business. In the same way, the challenge is that they often hire people that are dumber than them. And really what they need to be doing is hiring superstars. So if you've got a company doing, let's say, $5 or $10 million a year, and you want, bring the company up to 50 million, well, you got to hire someone who's been there already, someone who's done it. And that typically comes at a very large expense. And I think, Tim, to your point in terms of when you see management getting caught up in the tactical side, it's because they're out of their league to be able to take it to the next level. They need someone who's a superstar, an A player, to be able to come in. And you let those guys manage their teams. The owner should never be the one hiring and firing people, to do the, let's call it, the tactical execution. That should be the team leader, whoever is in that division. But my point is, they're heavy on payroll because they think they're just adding more and more staff to fulfill more tactical and more day-to-day tasks and routine tasks instead of hiring the right people that will know how to take it to the next level. So,
No, you're spot on. And it's taken me a year to convince this owner to step aside. He's moved into a chairman's role right now. Still has a hand in it because he wants to make sure that his company grows appropriately, but he's trying desperately to stay out of the mix right now. The CEO is very talented, but hasn't run a $50 million company. He's a quick study. They have no COO at all. It's a $30 million company, right? And it shows all over the place. So in the absence of the COO, those COO responsibilities, which don't go away, they just fall on they either fall undone, which are underdone, or they fall in the lap of the CEO. So he's not really a CEO; he's more of a COO. So that's just the drama that's going on there right now.
I mean,
I just convinced the owner that they need to get that COO, and it should be somebody that's I actually got a candidate that's coming from a $200 million company. So.
Yeah, why don't they? It should be pretty easy for them to just tie if you're hiring an A-class whatever, a corporate executive to come in and help as a COO. There's no reason why his comp can't be tied to the change in the performance. I mean, if you bring him in as a COO, and then it quickly justifies the investment. I mean, you turn the owner, say this is an investment. You let him know that he's going to get paid whatever it is, 2, 3, 4, 500, 600, 700. It could even be $1 million a year. Your goal is to affect a change in X, whether it's margin or top line if he's in sales and marketing. And if I'm not getting a 10X return, we're done here. And you got to be sure that he's comfortable doing that, and that he's showing a track record that he's able to execute on that side in that industry or perhaps not that industry. But if he can do it, I mean, that will solve pretty much all of the owner's, problems and issues. And it only needs to happen once before the owner finally gets it that, that's going to go across his entire organization, whether it's in operations or in finance or, in
Joseph, man, I am in violent agreement. Could I share a quick, Tim, this may be helpful for you specifically on
100%, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah, 100%. Would it be okay if I share my screen for 1 minute and just show you guys?
Okay, we'll let it go this time.
Thank you. So, guys, for those of you who are, in fact, essentially everyone is. We have very few people who only subscribe to the discovery level. But for most of you, essentially all of you, there's this leadership module. What does the leadership module do? It allocates in an ideal world the 24 growth driving objectives across 4 functional areas: executive, operations, finance, and revenue. It is available to you after completing level 1. I mean, it's there, it's just not populated. So when you're thinking about what am I going to get off of, this is the fundamental role. And the reason I define the fundamental role of each of these executives, if we say that there are 4 executives in charge of these functions, these are C's. So they're strategic, but they're also have tactical accountability. And we can allocate the 24 growth driving objectives. So this might, Tim, the reason I bring this up is this might be a great place to say, okay, which of these are you, your client, your primary client, your TPR, Mr. TPR, which of these are you doing?
There you go. Thank you, Joe. And then when we scroll down to operations, right? I'm not saying this is a perfect definition, but I would argue that it's at least 80% there, especially in an ideal world. And which one, Mr. TPR, are you doing here? You'll notice that the chief operating officer, look at dimension 1, dimension 1, dimension 1. And then we have a couple of dimension 2s, no dimension 3s for the operator, right? And this is predictable profits and cash flow and sustainable growth. When it comes to transferable value, that is not attack. The COO is sort of the strategic head of the tactical arm of the, but when we look at the CEO, we go back up here to our executive, dimension 1, they need to lead an effective senior leadership team, and they're in charge of culture. That's dimension 2. The rest, and then strategic planning, right? You'll notice these are strategic, and then we have dimension 3, and dimension 3. And brand and culture are obviously in the same accountability because brand is the outward manifestation of culture. Okay, I'll stop there. But whether you're doing it at level 1 or level 2, Tim, this might be a good tool to say, all right, like let's divide these up and then figure out who should be sitting, to Joseph's point and to Joe's point, who should be sitting in these seats. Again, this is in an ideal world. But it might be a different way of looking at the SLT. So I hope that was helpful.
Very.
Yeah,
Well,
it's an uncomfortable truth, but the reality is that most people need to make a change in the people that are in management. And often there's a lot of people there that they're tenured, they've been there for a while, but they quite frankly don't have the skill set to go to the next level. And most owners, they have a certain level of relationship with the people they've been working with for a long time, especially in business for a while. And it's really uncomfortable for them to have to let somebody go. I'm not a big, it's not to have anything against, education and teaching people and corporate training, but at the top level, it takes just too much time to do it. You really need to import someone who's got the skill set, and most people are uncomfortable to let people like that go.
Yeah.
Tim, I was listening to
really agree.
Tim, I was listening to your comments before too. And one of the things that I've observed in almost all of the clients that I have, not that they're all this way, but you see it a lot, is that most business owners are really operators and not business people. They're great at their industry. They know their industry really well, and they're great at executing the things that need to get done to do the day-to-day things, but almost none of it is strategic in the sense that if you know you're going to sell your house in 2 years, you're doing things to your house to get it ready. They're not doing any of that work to get ready for something, whatever that something is, if it's being bigger or if it's selling or whatever it is. And so I agree with Joseph's comment that sometimes you can't train people, but I look at my biggest mission is teaching people how to fish. If I'm going to engage with them, I'm teaching them how to fish. My goal isn't to be the provider of all the information all the time. At the start, I'm going to have to do more of that. And again, the parallel I would draw is raising kids. Sure, when they're young, I got to give them a lot. I hope by the time they're 16, 17, 18, I'm just occasionally being referenced to help them understand something. I'm not still giving them everything I had to tell them when they were 5, right? And if we're not taking that viewpoint, that one, let's assess whether the first assessment I do is this person an operator or a business person? Like, where are they on that spectrum? And it's not, all to one end or the other, but are they more an operator or are they more a strategic? Do they get strategy and are they doing it? That assessment right there tells me how I'm going to have to approach the engagement, and then I can go help them. And am I going to be able to train them? And by the way, if they're an operator, generally they don't, to Joseph's point, they don't have strategic people around them, right? Because those people are way above them, and they don't like that. And so they haven't had the strategy mindset to hire A players around them either.
Yes. Yes, Eric. Yes. And they are typically not keeping score, which is, and if we want to get them into, if we look at the business flow scorecard, and I always say, if you just get a good Monday morning meeting where everyone's reviewing good data in the business flow scorecard, it's a flash report, right? We're in good place. We're going to start with strategic capacity. Look at our Moneyball KPI, gross revenue, net income, therefore margin, recurring percentage of recurring revenue. Those are all very healthy. I'm not saying they're perfect for every business in every industry, but I'm just giving some for examples. And we work down the list, the value of the marketing pipe, the activity in the marketing pipeline by some metric, activity in the sales pipeline by some metric. And we're staying high level, right? This is not a sales meeting. But then we're getting into, if we have one or two strategic projects going, for example, we're going to create an effective senior leadership team, and we are in the red, yellow, green on that project. And we're looking every week so that we know if we stumble, which happens always, if we hit a bottleneck, we can address it. And we are predicting, we have accurately predicting results, not waiting to see how we did. Okay.
Yeah.
There's
So
a
just to follow up, Tim, what concerns me a little bit about the comment that you made is these are, senior engineers who've gone up and now they're senior business leaders, right? If we don't address the fact that the owner or the leader, if we don't get to that person and get them to think strategically, there's no chance we're going to get the rest of the team to get to that strategic level. And so the first job we have is to get that business owner to understand the strategy and where they need to go and get them playing chess instead of checkers. Then we can go work on the team, because we can't take the rest of the team somewhere where the owner's not, or that leader. Again, if it's multiple owners, the person who's playing the role of president or CEO, if we can't get that person there, there's no chance we're going to get the rest of the team there. So I just submit that to you, Tim. You didn't give us enough to understand all of that, but I just heard that and I'm thinking, oh my God, if they all came from there and they're all at that level, you got a real problem. You got to get at least one of them, presumably the president, CEO, up to that strategic level first.
100%.
Yeah, that's exactly where they are right now. The chairman and the CEO are now thinking more strategically and intentionally and willfully. The rest of the other 4 or 5 members of the senior leadership team are at some level of stupor, figuring out how to deduce the way they've been doing things compared to how they could be. I don't think I know they're not all going to make it. It's a little hard right now to predict which ones will make the transition and which ones won't. How soon will the ones that are start getting traction enough to give them the margins that they need? So it continues to be a work in progress, but you're hitting a nail right on the head. I mean, that is part of the challenge and the big missing piece right now. You can't finish this puzzle without that qualified COO like Joe was describing. We need somebody in there who's prospered at least a $50 million company, maybe better, maybe overshoot a little bit. So that's going to be a hub around which the rest of this thing revolves.
Yeah, I want
100%.
to just key off of something Joseph said that I agreed with. So I just wanted to relieve you, Joseph, not argument. But like, I see this all the time when reference sales. And by the way, everything's a sales meeting, George. We still have work to do for you. But like, fundamentally, like most of the business owners manage to survive. Very rarely do they have any formal commercial sales training, right? And I would argue that might be consistent in this particular Zoom, right? And so you've got this evolved sales concept, but you don't really have a sales process because it's usually contrived, it's usually heavily compartmentalized. To Joseph's point, the hardest thing that I find out there is getting the owner and the leadership team to acknowledge the fact, this is at a particular stage of development, Joseph, that they're not going to be able to develop somebody to achieve next level results when they're not even at the current level as far as expertise comes in sales. And that you have to invest in that chief sales officer, like my friend TM, right? You have to invest in that person that's already been there, that knows exactly how to do it, instead of lying to yourself that you're going to train salespeople when you actually aren't that good yourself. Like that, Joseph, that's a conversation I would love to like just talk to you for 8 hours about, because that's like what I do. That's the conversations I have with my clients, is brutally exposing to them that they're not even competent to train their people as it is, let alone the next level. I loved what you said. I just wanted to make sure that everybody applied it all across the board. And because I'm telling you right now, the vast majority of the problems that we deal with, healthy sales pipelines give us and the owners the resources to apply leverage to fix them. But if we don't have sales pipelines, including ourselves, if we don't have sales pipelines, if we don't understand what we're selling, I just think about our conversation, Tim, last week, what does it really cost, right? If we don't really understand how sophisticated business owners, and if they're worth over $1 million, they're sophisticated. If we don't understand how they make decisions and drive pipeline, like I hate to be in a situation where my business owner doesn't have the resources to make the changes that we identify. You know what I mean? How shitty would it be to have a goal of getting to 50 million and like knowing that we need a salesperson or a sales manager or a sales executive that's been there and not having the money to do it?
So, let me start with their world and then take them into the growth driver world, right? So I saved this on another file, but this is our world, right? Executive function, finance, ops, revenue. In a typical EOS world where they're living, or where they're at least they've self-implemented, there's a visionary integrator, and they're trying to play the visionary with leaving the integrator's seat alone. Okay. So that's it, between the two of them, they should have the executive function. In a minute, we'll see that. But the revenue, who owns the revenue bucket? Who owns the ops bucket in finance? Typically, it's a lot of it that has stemmed from accountability. And so when you're trying to define that role, let me share something with you. You're trying to find that role, once again, going back from here, right? And so this is the chart I just showed you, right? And now go back to what is the executive function role. We go back to the, let me switch a different role. Let's see. We're going to this. This is in the playbook, right? So a little bit up, but the executive function, executive senior leadership team, strategic culture, these guys between those two positions should own that. And as they have a function, they have a need to have a chairman. And you said these guys are trying to pull themselves away. The reality is they're leaving that hole there in the integrator bucket that you got to figure out. So that helps you sort of define that role is bigger than just the ops guy, because the ops guy has their own function, finance has their own function, and revenue. And how many seats are these guys sitting in is kind of the question.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's helpful, but
Yeah. Thank you,
it's a
Joe.
different way to look at it.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
That was good. Oh my gosh. I just looked at the clock. It's 10:20. Anybody have
I think we should make Ed say something.
Oh, I had something different.
go ahead, Joe.
Ed and I have been hesitant to engage into multiple owner 50-50 partnerships. It just gets messy, it's complicated. One guy's putting on the brakes, other one's pushing on the gas, and
which often happens with spouses as well, even though one of the spouses isn't in the business. Sorry to interrupt.
But it's sort of like, there's enough fish in the ocean. Do we really want to go down that road? Because we're hosting an event tonight, and one of the guys comes as an very successful IT firm. His he's trying to get his business partner to go to our meetings that we're having. He's very reluctant to get involved. Then we have another one. It's an architectural firm. One guy just wants to get out, and the other one wants to not things change. So, what's the overall? Is it just putting another zero on the price of the consult, or is it? Is there any evidence that they're actually a more stable client? Or they, because I don't know, what's the current thoughts on multiple owners, usually about a 50, 49, 51%, not the 10% drag along guys that just
Joe, I would have a general comment, and this comes out of the the symposium I hosted last week, that most people in our fields are selling something without a lot of urgency. So if you're selling wealth gap, value gap, if you're selling like an end value of the company, that's valuable, and you'll get meetings and owners will be interested in what you're doing and they'll probably talk to you. But committing to it's going to be more of a challenge. So like my pitch for those owners is you've got to be able to identify something that is urgent to them. You have to be able to quantify it into a measurable outcome, measurable, not theoretical measurable, but dollar measurable within 90 days. Right. And so I think the problem is, like, and I'm just talking from my past experience, we can be deceived by prospects' willingness to meet with us and talk to us about strategic capacity, value of their company, all these different things. And we can conflate that falsely with the owner's urgency. I will tell you, whenever I hear somebody quote a ongoing retainer fee, I multiply it by 12 and then by 3, and everything from that point forward had better match up to that number, right? If it's 360K over 3 years, from that point forward, if you haven't focused me in on something that's going to be delivered right away, that's going to have a measurable impact on my bottom line, every conversation better be worth 360K, right? And it's just that's a theoretical approach to sales of understanding exactly what you're selling. And in your particular situation, Joe, I would take some time and I'd go, okay, what is immediately urgent? What do I know right now? What's immediately urgent with those owners? And what can I get traction on right away? I'd sell them maybe a smaller little thing, maybe even just a half day, but I'd sell that and get traction. And then now, and by the way, whenever I sell that stuff, I use their numbers. I don't talk about anything else other than their own numbers they gave me. So I don't know if that helps or not, but that's how I do it. I get out of theoretical, big picture, long sales cycle, and I get very, very small, very, very focused.
Joe, I'd chime in also. I'd say 50% or more of my clients are multiple owner situations. I don't know if they're better clients in the sense that they're more stable. I would argue at the start they're less stable for the very reasons that you said. Mike has shared a client with me that is a multiple owner, and there are always complications in it. I do it because I enjoy the complexity of it, and the potential for the potential out of them is so much greater than an individual one, because you actually help resolve multiple issues, right? It's not just fixing the, hey, you're at 3 million of value and you need to be at 5. That's a good game of chess. This is standing in the middle of a circle and playing 9 games of chess all at once.
Well,
right.
Yeah, Eric, and to pick up on that point, Joe and Ed and everyone, I would argue that those businesses more than the singular leader need us.
Absolutely.
Because there's the I wish Larry Prince was on, because there's the emotional component, and it is like a long-term marriage, right? It is very, very similar to a long-term marriage where there's so much baked into the relationship, so much
reflexive behavior based on the entirety of their experience together, that we often can come in and be when I say coach, and I'll be vulnerable for a sec. I happen to be in the best relationship. I had my first wife is fabulous. She's one of my best friends. To this day, we talk essentially daily. I am now married to Sydney. One of the things that Sid and I decided to do before we even got engaged was to bring in a coach. Like, we knew we could make our relationship better. That is your role, right? And that coach, by the way, didn't come on dates with us, right? She just helped us better communicate, better define success. Does this sound familiar? Better define where our goal for our relationship. And then to do to take the well understood but not easy. Does that sound familiar? Well understood but not easy steps to improve our behavior. And when we have a 50-50 relationship, my guess would be that you are a godsend. Absolutely can be transformative to the business and to them as people. So, if that, I know none of us signed up to be psychotherapists, but let's face it, guys, we play that role at times, and it's a good role, and we're human. So, and by the way, you want to know where AI can't go? There.
Right. And Joe, I would just, back to what George just said, if you don't want to spend most of your time being a psychologist, do not engage with multi-owner firms. They're the complexity, I spend 80+% of my time dealing with people issues, not technical issues, right? We all spend a fair amount of our time dealing with people issues, but it's the fire with gasoline poured onto it once you put multiple owners in there. I've helped 2 owners exit out of the multi-owner. Like, they came to me and we had one, and we bought out one of the owners twice. There's a lot going on there. So I love it, but it's not for everybody. I get that.
Hey, Jemiah is going to be our closing comment. Before I hand you the mic, Michael Garrison, wherever you are, I can't see you anymore.
He's
Maybe
gone.
Got to run. Well, someone that Mike introduced us to, signed up while we were on this call. So thank you, Mike. I love, guys, never before in any business, other than the manufacturing company, no other business have more people been referring their colleagues than now with Growth Drive. And I'm deeply, deeply grateful. And I take it as a sacred trust. So thank you for the introductions. That's all. I'm not asking you to make introductions, but I'm deeply grateful when you do. And I use the word introduction on purpose. Jemiah, 2 more minutes. Go.
Man, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for your comments. Thank you. I'm thinking, I don't know if Andy, let's either Andy was on the call for your comments and such, but thank you, everybody, for the comments and the conversation, as always. Just on that last point, so I did social and emotional leadership development and coaching for about 20 years as a consultant, George. And I was mostly working with the owners and senior leadership, and it's exactly what you said. And it's another point that, again, not harping on API or anything else. They call it personal readiness, but it's more so, I like to consider it more emotional transitional readiness. And, how emotionally fit are they for change, or how primed are they for change in the relationship with the business, with their partners, or even with the new strategy. And that's a real thing. And you can spend just as much time on that work, as you all probably well know, with the owners, and just getting them in the right mindset to even be a team player for themselves, and priming them for that more than anything. So it don't turn into, like you said, a self-sabotage kind of situation. It's the same as with the regular relationship. They don't know maybe how emotionally input they are or what they say. So I want to commend all you guys for recognizing that and saying that's what kind of makes our work different. It will make our work different going forward. Something I like to say is staying high touch in a high tech world. And people have all the apps and things that they want. As long as we keep that human touch, that empathy, and those, what they used to call, like they have to battle a lot from being called soft skills. But those are the things that's gonna be the golden skills going forward as all this other technology and all these other things go forward.
I totally agree.
Having that personal touch with it too. So thank you all for your comments, and exactly for this platform is really what make us what we do at Growth Drive stand out from both the rest.
Awesome, Jemiah. Thank you. A fabulous note to end this week's call, on which to end this week's call. Jemiah, thank you very much, man. Grateful to have you.
Joe and Ed, if you want to talk a little bit, I'd be happy to talk offline.
Okay, and Ed, you and I are going to talk right now. And guys, everyone, thank you. Thank you so much. A terrific conversation again. Hope to see you next week. Anything I can do to help, call me. This is a phone.
Thank you all
No
for the
answer.
spontaneous insight too. I just love every time I get on here. Thank you.
Tim, happy to talk with you as well, Tim.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. That's awesome. Thanks, guys. What a great
Thanks,
community.
guys.
Bye.